All right. I am here to introduce our panel, excellent panel. We've got a moderator from Webflow, Neil Smith, and our panelists will be Miles Cox and Will Brooks. So you guys can all come on. Yes, round of applause.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, welcome to the community stage. I think we'd all agree that keynote was pretty inspiring. So obviously this is going to be even more inspiring than that, as you can imagine. All right, I need a raise of hands. Who is into Formula One, motorsport, anything like that? Is there any big racing nuts in there? Right, this is my boy Charles. He's 9 years old, and this was, well, he was 9 years old. This was when he was about to race on a track for the first ever time. So nervous parents, as you can imagine, very expensive as well. And if you look very closely, he's incredibly impatient to get out on the track. Wind forward to today, he's a strapping 6'2", 18-year-old, full of testosterone, but still as impatient as ever, and it drives me crazy. But I love him dearly. Now, that impatience is not just related to motor racing and getting on track. It relates to any experience and anything he's trying to do, whether it's social connection, whether it's purchasing a new pair of sneakers on a website. It's always something. Now, the problem is that Charles, like any other teenager, is incredibly impatient. If they don't get that instant gratification of the experience in a short period of time, at the blink of an eye, they switch and they're off to another brand. They don't get long to do that. In fact, it's well documented that an individual forms an opinion about a brand in less than half a second. You really don't have long to grab the attention of people. Don't have long at all. I know that there was a 75% quote about, poor layouts on websites. So it was very interesting from Refocus there. In addition to that statistic around the lack of attention span from people, companies that have not been successful in representing their brand, there's an estimate that last year, $2.6 billion in retail was lost through poor user experience and web experiences that were not beautifully aligned to brand. You don't have long, and you've got to get it right when you do that. Every business is an online business now, right? Post-pandemic, everyone's remote completely. So that means that not only are people impatient like Charles and want to deeply connect with people, employees are as well. So they need to connect to their fellow employees and co-workers wherever they may be in the world. But in addition to that, they need simple, elegant user experiences that makes their day just a little bit simpler and more productive. Forrester Research last year interviewed a whole bunch of executives, and they really focused on what is the thing that's really preventing them being competitive in the market. And the thing that they said was their inability to release quality software that represents their brand and is engaging and very personalized. So the challenge is that why can't they do that? Well, it's very simple. It's a skills gap. There's massive skills issues relating to these types of companies. So these companies are forced to adapt. It's not that they just want to, they have to, and so does the expertise that supports them. So Webflow is now a global business, international. You're probably picked up from my accent, I'm not in the US. But in addition to that, I'm absolutely thrilled and honored to be sharing the stage with two very innovative leaders from global consulting firms that we've had the privilege of working with over the last year. We have Miles from VMLY&R, part of the WPP group, and we also have Will from Slalom. So without further ado, Miles, I'm going to hand over to you to get a bit of an insight into VMLY&R.
Thanks, Neil. So we've got, you should also say, UK, Australia, Canada.
There you go. Yeah. How about that?
International panel.
International, yeah. So yes, I'm Miles Cox, Chief Experience Officer for VMLY&R Australia and New Zealand. Part of my role is to look at our CX practice through that region and how we are competitive in the region. Our mission or our tagline, if you like, is to create connected brands that people love. And we really think that brand and experience go hand in hand. So if you, coming back to the refocus kind of talk, there was a lot in that I was just like, yes, yes, yes. And saw all the photos if you saw me taking them, because all of that really resonates. We believe in that wholeheartedly, experience brand hand in hand. So we are a mouthful, VMLY&R, Neil, as you say.
Yep.
But we are part of WPP, more initials. VML, a sort of 30-year-old company out of Kansas City, digital-focused. Y&R, a 100-year company out of New York. Merge those two together, and we're trying to make really great things happen. Just a quick note, the great things we have made happen. We just won a gold lion at Cannes, where we put a fitness tracker on chickens. We're kind of crazy. We're kind of crazy. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, very, very good. And what was it called?
Fit Chicks.
Fit Chicks. How about that? Thank you, Miles. So Will, over to you. Welcome to the stage.
Thanks a lot, Neil. So Will Brooks, I'm a digital strategist with Slalom Consulting. I've been operating in the MarTech space for close to 15 years now. Really tend to focus on working with clients to convert their customer experience strategy over into technology requirements and then kind of carry them through to that visionary execution. Slalom was founded in 1993, originally very much focused on accounting, and then we rebranded in 2001 as Slalom Consulting. We work with clients on strategy, business transformation, and technology engagements. And really, our motto there at the bottom, fiercely human, is kind of something that carries through all of our engagements. We really try to empathize with our clients whenever we engage with them on projects, whatever the type of project, and just help them, carry them, partner them with them well, and then exceed their expectations. So,
great, thank you.
Back to you, Neil.
Thank you, both of you. One of the things that we're going to focus on is the rise of the citizen developer, or teams that build these amazing solutions that typically sit outside of IT. Gartner are predicting. Oh.
Perfectly timed.
Expecting that. Okay, so anyway, Gartner is predicting by 2026, 80% of work that is delivering digital experiences are actually going to be outside of the IT department. So there's a significant shift there. There's another statistic from McKinsey, and they recently commented that developers are one of the most valuable assets to an organization for modern digital enterprises, yet they spend well over 40% of their time on repetitive, low-value tasks. So you imagine repurposing that 40% and putting that to better use. That's what these organizations are doing. So, Will, I'm going to stay with you. I'd love to get your opinion about kind of what you're seeing based upon what we've experienced in the marketplace so far.
So I think that I'll continue along with that same thread, Neil. Talking to clients, we're seeing a lot of clients kind of reevaluate what is the engineering team doing in terms of their website development, in terms of reinventing the wheel and really trying to optimize it. Is that really contributing towards that unique customer experience? Spoke to a client recently the past couple of weeks. They had an engineering team of 3 who was working on some animations that would make the site load a lot more quickly. It would look really slick, and kind of he seemed to have the same perspective of me. He's like, I'm not sure this is the best use of our time, of our resources. How can we, start to leverage more of our marketing team? How can we, better expedite our speed to market? And I think that's, they're seeing these gaps in, trying to basically attach an ROI to the way that their sites are being developed, and they're going, okay, you know what? These are really expensive resources that aren't really doing anything significant. We can probably pick up a platform like Webflow that has more of that functionality built in and start to build out a lot quicker and provide that same end experience. because that's just one part of it is going to be that front end interface.
Yeah.
But
Thank
I don't know, Miles.
I'll go a little bit different. Is the reason we started this conversation? Well, there's many, but one of the reasons was frustration within the team. Frustration that they were completing those repetitive tasks, and they didn't get to the chance to do the things that I guess challenge them and let them grow. So they felt that they were doing the same thing over and over again. And it wasn't just our development team; it was also design team. So when you think about, and we've heard about today, design systems and reuse of designer components, it goes hand in hand for both design and development. So I think when you can start to use a platform that I guess expedites that and allows the reuse really, really easily, you've got happier employees, better products, and happier clients. So that's kind of one of the things that we've been talking about, and one of the things that I reached out to Neil to start with. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing internally.
Yeah, and one of the things that was amazing to me, and I've just been at Webflow for just over a year, is we have just such a wonderful group of freelancers and community of agencies that have helped us build our business to our 11th year. But one of the things that I learned before I joined Webflow was how much focus there was from analysts, whether it was Gartner, IDC, Forrester, that even had analysts actually dedicated to low and no code technology. So that kind of tells you the industry's moving in the right place. When I see organizations like Accenture, Capgemini, actually put out public-facing papers on the rise of the citizen developer, again, they're thinking about this very seriously. They see a trend where that's concerned. So in addition to VMLY&R, plus also Slalom, we've also got engagement with Globant, Capgemini, AKQA, Wunderman Thompson, the list goes on. So it's a great place to be and the right timing for us as well. And when we see things that are going to help organizations scale, where you have to have a design system in place to ensure that everything you build is on brand. So when the product has really caught up to that need for enterprises, it really is quite a compelling opportunity. When I've spent time with Miles and Will and all of these other global consulting firms, the biggest thing that we hear is that they want to kind of do two things. One, they want to be more competitive when they pitch, much more interactive and compelling experiences. And if they do win the business, can they actually deliver super efficiently, where they can repurpose the time that they traditionally would use for just heavy lift dev work and put it to better use around more strategic consulting, brand consulting. So I'd love to start off, Miles, with you again, is that what were the real drivers that you were experiencing within your teams that compelled you to think about another solution in the bag?
Yeah, so not only internal with our teams, it was also the external forces. There was kind of fewer briefs, I think, in the last year to 18 months. I'm not only seeing it, I think it's global. I don't think it's just Australia and New Zealand, and it's definitely not our agency. We're seeing it through our competitors as well. Our industry is large but small at the same time. You kind of know everyone, and you kind of know that everyone's feeling the same pressure. So we were seeing fewer briefs at a lower cost. And we were really struggling to work out, how do you respond to that? How do we even do that? Is it even possible? And we kind of, let's just call it what it is. We kind of screwed a couple of opportunities up because we weren't thinking probably how we should be. We were thinking in an older way. We were thinking those monoliths, or we were thinking, even composable to an extent, but much bigger. And we kind of sat down and really sort of challenged ourselves, like, there has to be a better way. There has to be somewhere that we change this conversation from no, we can't to yes, we can. And that's really the driving force that we started this conversation, this relationship. It really is, it's that simple. Let's say yes to everything and let's build from the ground up, rather than saying no, there's no way to do that. So that was really the main driving force to this relationship.
Great, love it. Thank you, Miles. Will, what's your perspective?
So I think we've more and more, very similar to yourself, Miles, like we're ending up in situations, we have a local global model at Slalom, so when I get engaged with local markets, they're bringing us in because there's an identified opportunity and they want my support to help pitch the business. And we're coming in with either monolithic solutions or headless solutions, and just losing the business. As you said, like, we screwed the pooch, tough luck. Or our local markets were kind of coming to us going, the client has X budget, can we even do anything at this point? And kind of going, okay, like, is there any point, is it worth the effort? And I think that, this really gives us another option to really engage with clients. And the reason why, we're looking at this, and I think larger consulting companies are, is, when we think about what goes into website design and development, the development is one part of it. The design is a huge part, the discovery, the information architecture, the design systems that need to be built. All of those additional considerations, that entire ecosystem that's going to support that single front-end interface, that's pretty platform agnostic. There's also a lot of value for us to provide that. So if we're going in and we're working with a client and we're going, hey, we're going to stand you up, and then here's the handoff. Maybe we build the entire site and hand it off to the client on Webflow, or maybe we just build out some of the templates and the framework and hand it off earlier and their team takes over. We have so many other options as a global company around how we can continue to engage, that we can continue to grow that. That client now becomes recurring source of revenue that we can continue to engage with, versus having said, well, they don't have enough money for us to do a website, we're going to walk away. At that point, we've closed the door on all that additional revenue recurring. And I think that's a huge driver for us, is we're not pitching these 7-figure deals to start with, but we do see a much longer path with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we one of the phrases that we've kind of coined internally is Webflow is the tip of the spear. It's a way of actually just getting engaged with a client super quickly, blowing their mind around actually how fast can you innovate. And actually, when you open their eyes up, they then even get more adventurous, because they now know the answers not no from their IT teams. There is kind of another way of doing that. It does, however, introduce a bit of a challenge for organisations that are trying to push the boundaries of this, and that would be you've probably spent years and lots of money establishing process and methodology and frameworks around delivery. So obviously, as an innovator, you are probably the thorn in the side of anyone that spent their whole life defining a software development lifecycle. So I'd love to know, Miles, how that's gone down with your organisation.
It's kind of my own side, so I guess I'm fortunate there. But there's a challenge in kind of not so much the buy-in, but people kind of coming around to it. So yeah, there's challenges in talking about this process and this way of thinking and working internally and externally. But if we think about internal, it is around where does our process go? Hang on, we're used to this much time. How can we possibly do it in this much time? It's becoming a, I guess, trial by fire approach. Let's go through it and we'll work it out. That's kind of what the last 6 to 10 months has been like.
Mm-hmm.
We will work it out.
We'll
be okay.
We'll be okay. Love it.
Will be okay.
You should need a T-shirt with that on. Yeah.
Everything will be all right.
Yeah. What will be, will be.
Yeah. So, Will, what's your perspective on that?
I think that when we're considering what that looks like and kind of the change management associated with that, I don't know if I'm taking the same approach as you around what will be. Tend to be a little bit more strategic around it, and that's kind of one of the areas where I see additional revenue. Slalom has a large organizational efficiency team. We can handle change management, and that's very much along with analytics, along with customer data, along with information architecture. We'll also support our clients with any kind of change management. And in my mind, back to my previous comment, that's really one of the reasons why we're looking at Webflow so seriously is, yes, it's the tip of the spear. Yes, there's going to be pain because we're making significant changes, and there is going to be impacts to your team. But we can also help you through that. We can help upscale your resources. If you do, reallocate resources within the organization. So again, it's just more opportunities from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although what will be is.
With a little bit more thought and planning. And,
So I was thrilled to, and it's a privilege being in the room of a keynote with Vlad. And you obviously saw some very exciting new things that are now being released. I'd love to, from Miles, your perspective, is there anything that particularly popped out as that wow moment for you in that keynote?
yeah, I mean, as we were talking about earlier, pretty much the whole keynote, like, I'm not going to lie, it was kind of like moments of wow and hitting up different people on Teams as that was happening. Like, you have to check out this part. Now you have to check out this part. Make sure you watch this part and let me know, like, what's going on. So, look, I think no one part, to be honest. It was all of it. Like, it's all incredibly exciting.
Great.
To imagine our teams having that in their hands and what they can do with it. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell. I'm a little bit excited.
Yeah. I asked, I whispered into Malzi, I said, are you using...
Weird.
Yeah, it does sound a bit creepy, but I didn't want to disturb anyone
It was after
else.
a couple of drinks last night.
Yeah, exactly. And it was about Splice. And
Yeah.
I said, are you using Splice? He said, we are now.
Yeah. Yeah, we are now.
Yeah.
Are you doing 3D models of smokers? Is that the
Smokers?
spline? Yeah.
No.
The
No?
barbecue.
Oh,
barbecue?
right, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
not Cubans.
No, we're going to... Everything's 3D now. Everything.
And what about you, Will? Is there anything that really popped for you on that call?
So I think the localization and the translation capabilities, in and of themselves, huge opportunity there from my perspective, especially for some of our clients that have different locations. I'm Canadian. Difference between English in English-speaking Canada and then Quebec-speaking French, very different versus some of our clients over in France and their different version of French, more traditional. Certainly, being able to kind of localize that, absolutely. Also just excited for, what that means in terms of more of the opportunities to kind of personalize what's happening, being able to inject more of those data and insights into their Webflow experience and really help drive and tailor the site based on what's happening. So I'm really excited for the opportunities there. Personalization, ongoing theme, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Final question from me is if an organisation is, inspired from the keynote and they were speaking with Slalom for the first time, what would be your kind of advice to them about how to get started on this new way of working?
So I think it's, at least for me, so I take a digital strategy approach, but it always comes back to the customer experience. And what are you trying to drive? What is that ideal experience that you want? And then what is the ecosystem that we need to put in place to really drive that experience? And that's, I will put a little asterisk on the end of that and say, in today's market, a delay of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months can really put you're completely behind any of your competitors. So not only what is the experience that you want your customers to have, but how quickly can we get you there? And what's the ROI of potentially, accelerating that versus let's letting it lag. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. So really it's, just focusing on that customer experience, but also getting there as quickly as we can.
Yep.
This isn't something that we can kind of sit and wait. There needs to be activity, there needs to be action.
Yeah.
There needs to be testing and iteration. We know
Yeah.
it's not going to be perfect from the start, but.
Great, thank you, Will. And Miles, what would you do? Just wing it?
Yeah, just wing it. Yeah. Well, I mean, to echo what Will said, it has to start with the customer experience, no matter the technology. We heard that from you just then, from Refocus, and 100% agree with that. You've got to think about what you're creating, why you're creating it, and how you can then deliver that experience. Because if you start with the tech, it's going to fail. I've just ripped off Steve Jobs. Why not? It worked for him. It's going to work for me. But at the same time, a little bit of the orange theory from this morning that we heard of just go. Right? They leapt basically because there was a little bit of need, and they trusted it, and it worked. So there's a little bit of plan, strategy, sure, but there's also about trust and trying something new and working out if it's right for your team, right for your clients and your partners, and just working through that together. Because if you stay in what you're doing, you're probably not going to grow too fast. But yeah, you've got to can't say no all the time.
Yeah.
You got to work out how to say yes.
Figure it out.
And figure it out as you go.
Yeah. Well, did you
I
have
agree with
any
that.
other comments?
Well, I think you were a big fan of the 5590 from yesterday.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
Do you want to explain that?
So there was a slide that came up yesterday. We were at the CAB, the advisory board yesterday, and Larry had up a slide around 5% spent on design, 5% spent on development, and then essentially 90% spent on analysis and optimization. I sent that straight back to Australia and was like, this is what we've got to start thinking about. This is how we start selling, essentially, even though I hate that term and hate thinking about it like that. But that's the way to start converting, because we've been spending 100% on design and development and zero on optimization. We've tried in many different ways to work with our client partners and essentially convert them in that way of thinking and finding budgets. But if we can do that going forward through the new tool set that's coming in the weeks and months, it's an absolute game changer for us and our client partners.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it. We're nearly at time now. About 6 months ago, I emailed Miles with the email title Crazy Idea. And that crazy idea was to say, would there be any chance you'd fancy flying all that way over to San Francisco and be on stage? Well, it's amazing what can be done in such a short period of time. But it's been, as the individual that's trying to get Miles over and also Will, it's nerve-wracking because when there's 18,000 miles of combined travel between the three of us to get to this stage, there's bound to be something that goes wrong. And thankfully, there didn't, but there might have been, Miles. What was that happened?
What was it? Distracted, maybe? I didn't have an Nesta, so I went to check in. I got to the airport, went to check in, and they said, you can't check in. I said, why not? And they said, you don't have an Nesta. I said, what's an Nesta? Turns out you can get one in an hour. So here I am.
There you go. But the good news...
Did not read the fine print.
No, but the good news was that Miles Miles told his wife about this, but he didn't thankfully tell me because that would have just sent me over the edge. Anyway, 18,000 miles to get here, a lot of jet lag. Let's give him a round of applause. All right, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.